All right, so again, welcome. This is our first ever career launch career panel. So again, we want to thank everyone for joining us today. The intent of this is to introduce us to different industries that are right here locally in the Bandon area and to kind of give us an insight and idea into how our industry leaders have gotten to where they are today. We do encourage you to ask questions. We did format it into being a specific time that you could ask questions. So if you could please be muted until then and just go ahead and unmute yourself when you have a question. Again, we're very, very laid back here. So I do have a video that I would like to start with though, that kind of gives us an overview or an idea on why it is that we want to do informational interviews, why it is that we want to ask our industry experts questions.
Consider this. What if you had a chance to be anyone who's who would you choose? What if you had a land running in the back and standing over the ground thing as a slow? What would you want to do? What would you ask them? As an individual, living and living in their sections, it's interesting that they're all international communities. But how do we know all of this information now? Is it true?
All right, let me stop this share there. So I did have someone comment that you weren't able to hear that. Were you guys able to hear that recording?
It was pretty low.
It was pretty low. Okay.
Yes.
Well,
But I think most of the dialogue was up on the print.
Okay, and I do have another comment here you can't hear. So I can go ahead and play it again, and then Mo gets to see it. Mo just joined us. So again, it is only 2 minutes. Thank you for bearing with me on that. Share screen, and I did not click, just for all of you Zoom users. When you share a screen, there are buttons you're supposed to click that say share computer sound and optimize your screen for sharing the video clips. And I did not click that this time. So here we go again.
Consider this. What if you had the chance to meet anyone in history? Who would you choose? What if we had a way of bringing them back and transporting them right here into this room? What would you want to know? What would you ask them? In today's world of Google and other internet search engines, we tend to take for granted all of the information at our fingertips. But how do we know all of this information is reliable? Is it trustworthy? What if we could go right to the source and ask the experts of today? When thinking about our future careers, each of us can benefit from hearing the stories of experts who started out just like us. What might we ask these experts? What internships might we consider that would help set us up for success? What is a pre-apprenticeship? How does it work? How can I set up a job shadow experience? These are just a few of the questions we'll get a chance to ask the real experts visiting today. So sit back, get ready to learn from some of the best, and be ready to ask them how they got where they are today. Are you ready? Let's launch.
Okay, so that video did bring up some good questions too about internships, pre-apprenticeships, things like that. So again, after our call today, the last 15 minutes I did save aside for questions and answers for myself And we do have different internship opportunities leading into adult apprenticeships as well through the Recruit Hippo program with South Coast Business. So if you have questions on that, or if you feel like that's something that you're led after hearing these stories, that you're definitely interested in joining these industries, then definitely bring that up after the call today. Hi, Mo. I can see you, so I thought I'd introduce you. Mo Aker is our business specialist. That's her wonderful face there. And she is the one that goes around and connects us with different businesses and employers in our area. All right. So on that note, today joining us, we do have Eugene from Southern Coos Hospital, and he is the CEO of Southern Coos, and we're really excited to hear from you and learn more about how you got to where you're at today.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Just to be sure, can people hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
we can hear
okay,
you.
good. Well, the question of how I arrived to be a hospital CEO is kind of interesting. I must admit that when I was in high school, that was not the plan. I wasn't sure just what I wanted to do. And so it's been kind of a long evolutionary journey for me personally. But I was very fortunate in when I was in high school, I was able to take two assessments. One was the Cooter Occupational Interest Inventory, and the other was the Strong Vocational Interest. So between those two, between the Cooter and the Strong, one looks at your aptitude, the other looks at your interests. And that helped me get a start. The findings from those, I had a very strong interest in science and engineering and math, what now people refer to as STEM. And I took the advanced placement courses that were available in my high school. But the assessment findings directed me towards a career. The two top findings were college professor or psychologist. And so I actually went to college and followed that up with graduate school. I started my professional career as a counseling psychologist, worked as a clinician, got my first exposure to working in a healthcare environment. Actually, as an undergrad, I was a clerk in a hospital, and that was my first exposure to a hospital environment. And it's really kind of where I ignited my passion about the significance of working in healthcare, the fact that what you do makes a difference in people's lives. And that kind of was the fuel for me then as it is now. Um, so I kind of transitioned into acute care as I worked my way into management. Um, Looking back on it, I think there was kind of a handful of critical components to that. First one is, do you have the qualifications and skills and expertise to be able to master the job? Are you passionate about the work? Will you love what you do? And do you have the ability to fit into a team environment? And fortunately, I was able to do all of those things. My career evolved, and I was afforded a lot of opportunities for advancement as a lifelong learner. I would stress that in any profession, in today's environment, you have to be prepared for continuous learning, to always advance your skill set, to always advance your knowledge base, and to be prepared to think a couple of years ahead. I always encourage my direct reports now to think about what skills do you need to be successful today versus what skills do you see being necessary 3 to 5 years from now. For example, right now, healthcare is very technology based. You have to be highly computer literate. You have to have good communication skills. And so you have to be prepared to stay on top of what is an evolving and growing knowledge base and skill set. In terms of folks considering a career in healthcare, I would encourage folks to do a little bit of research and understand just how broad healthcare is. It's not just being a doctor or a nurse. Obviously, I'm a healthcare administrator, but I evolved into that from being a hands-on clinician. But There are support duties in terms of the administrative side. There's lab, imaging, surgical services, and healthcare has some definite education requirements. Most professional roles require at least an associate's degree for lab and imaging. A bachelor's degree is definitely preferred, and that will get you some advancement. Some things require a graduate degree, but you don't have to go to graduate school to work in healthcare. You can start with an associate's degree and then look, depending upon the opportunities and your abilities, advance your credentials as you go. That's what I did. Um, I started out, worked with a bachelor's degree, got my master's. Right now, I went back to graduate school 3 separate times. So I was fortunate to be able to do that. But again, that is the importance, particularly in healthcare. There's continuing education requirements. So you have to be prepared for lifelong learning. But if you're passionate about what you do, it's actually pretty easy. Um, the difference for me and what has really been of great benefit to me, that I've always had work to do, but rarely has it felt like a job. And that's a significant difference for me. I was very fortunate that I was able to harness something that I believed in, something that I thought made a difference, and that has made all the difference for me. So, if you're interested in healthcare, I would encourage you. You can find out more from national databases like the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and take a look at the Occupational Outlook Handbook. Health professions right now are projected to grow anywhere from 7 to 10%, which is double other professions. So healthcare will be growing in the future. Um, we're looking for folks that have again, a familiarity and comfort with the life sciences and math, computer skills, but more importantly, you have to be passionate about the nature of what we do. You have to be conscientious. You have to be dependable. Being people oriented and compassionate makes a difference. You have to have very good communication skills, both written and verbal. You have to be able to share a great deal of information very quickly, particularly in emergency situations. You have to be detail oriented. Um, but if you're willing to put in the work and have a certain level of focus, the rewards are great, both personally and financially. Again, the opportunities are there. It's not easy. It can be really demanding. The hours can be long. They can be stressful. But there's very few jobs. When you leave your job site at the end of the day, you have a very strong sense that you made a significant difference in the life of somebody else. And for me, that's the best thing about working in healthcare. I've had opportunities to leave the field, but have never felt as strong a connection to other jobs and other professions as I have in healthcare. But again, speaking numerically, with an associate's degree, if you get the certification, starting salaries start between $50,000 and $60,000 for being a lab or radiology tech. If you get that next level of certification, your salaries can move to approach $100,000 a year. If you put in the work to get a master's degree in graduate preparation, you start pushing 150,000. And when you get to an executive level or have both the interest and ability to pursue a doctorate level kind of education, the salaries are 200,000 and more. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. It takes a lot of preparation and work to get there. But if you make the investment, it can be well worth it. I don't regret, I've spent the equivalent of probably 12 years in graduate school. Most of that was while I was working, and that was pretty tough, but the rewards have really been worth it. So again, if you have the aptitude and you're willing to stay focused for a long period of time. It's a little bit of deferred gratification. It certainly has worked out well for me. I would highly recommend it if you're willing to chase it down, but it won't come to you. You're going to have to go after it.
Well, that's some really, really great advice. And to know that those types of careers are available right here in our local area, I think is really important for our students to hear.
Yeah, and I think, again, I would encourage folks to, the thing I would emphasize right now to folks is you can get entry into the field with an associate's degree. You can be an associate's level nurse, you can be an associate's level lab tech or radiology tech. And then as opportunity presents itself and as your desire to advance grows, you have the opportunity to move up the ladder, because it certainly is available. I was very fortunate. I was afforded some opportunities to advance. But again, if you think about it, over the span of my career, I started as a clerk, and now I'm a chief executive officer, and I can track every one of those steps to some conscious effort I made to get prepared for my next role.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Students, do you have some questions for Eugene today about healthcare or about how he got to where he's at? I'm wondering, Eugene, are you local to the Bandon area? Did you grow up in Oregon?
No, actually, I was born and raised in Illinois, but I came out to the West Coast. My family didn't have the means to pay for me to go to graduate school. I got a fellowship to go to Idaho State, and so that's what brought me out to the Intermountain West, and that was 30 years ago. And I've stayed on the West Coast or Intermountain West, Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, Montana, ever since. I grew up in a small town, and I like living in a small town environment personally. And so I actually, when I was in graduate school at the University of Washington, I sought out opportunities in rural environments, because rural healthcare is a little bit different. The distances are greater. It has some different nuances than if you're in a big city. But no, I like working in rural healthcare because I like living in a rural environment.
I have a really brief question, Eugene. We're almost out of time, but I'm wondering, are you fully staffed? Or are you looking for folks, or how's it going in just in terms of recruiting, staffing? If you could just give it a couple of seconds.
Yeah, well, right now we're pretty close to fully staffed, but a lot of the healthcare professions we're replacing folks as they retire. So, and that part of that is where that 7% growth and opportunities is going to come from. Right now, we're looking for lab technicians. Nursing, we're always kind of looking for, but we're in pretty good shape. And we're looking for replacing staff as they retire. Right now, between now and next April, I've got 3 directors that will be retiring. And probably 4 staff personnel that will be retiring. We have a total of about 175 employees, and in any given year, probably 25 to 30 jobs turnover, either through people moving, retiring, kind of natural attrition. But so we don't experience, we have a lot of employees here who have been here for a long time, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Because again, they're local to the community, and frankly, the hospital, the Coast Community Clinic, the healthcare presence in Bandon, they're some of the best jobs in the area. So when people find a job in one of those organizations, they tend to stay. They tend to get training so they can advance into the next opportunities. Most of my managers right now started as entry-level technicians and got additional training and experience along the way. Which, frankly, that's what I did.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you for sharing that. And I read a statistic somewhere that within, I believe, the next 10 years or so, there's about 600,000 jobs that are going to be opening up because of retirements and because of the generation aging out and going into retirement. So
Yeah.
students, yes, as students today, to wrap your head around that idea and that maybe the job's not flashing at you as an open need right now, but by the time we're out of high school, we've got a little bit of training under our belt and we're in those entry-level positions, that's automatically going to move you up into your qualifications. And like you
Yeah.
were,
If you think of it, you graduate from high school. If you're targeted on getting the right training and associate's degree to get certified, a lot of states require at least an associate's degree in relevant education to be licensed
Mhm.
or certified in that task, but you can do that in 2 to 2.5 years. So again, if you do your research on what the qualifications are, and that information is readily available, you graduate from high school and 2.5 years later, you can land a job that makes $60,000 a year and starts you on a career path. But you've got a plan and you've got to do the work.
Mhm. Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. And we'll definitely forward on any other questions that we have to you. I know your HR assistant was very, very friendly and awesome on the phone when I talked to her just now, saying if there's some students that are interested in healthcare, we should reach out and we could maybe do some more type of a job shadow, maybe an hour-long visit or something too. So
Yeah, no problem.
he's opening up.
Okay. Well,
Perfect.
I've got to get back to it, so I'm going to sign off.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Perfect. And so next up on the agenda, we have Hardin Optical here, and they are going to share more information about what they are. Now they're in more of a unique situation that they're actually manufacturing as well as providing optical for our local community. So are you there?
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me?
There you are. Okay, perfect.
Great.
Welcome.
Yeah, hi. So yeah, that was interesting what Eugene had to say. And just to add on to it, I know that my wife went to SWAC and she's an RN, and she was able to put herself through school. And yeah, it's great. It's a neat career. So as far as what we do, Hardin Optical produces precision optical components for military and medical applications, industrial applications as well. So nothing to do with glasses, but everything to do with optics that could be in night vision goggles, both image intensified, which is that green look you see in the military movies, but also thermal systems as well. Our optics will be in medical devices like flow cytometry. You have to do a follow-up with Eugene on what flow cytometry devices do, but yeah, it's some high-end medical equipment, potentially missile applications, drones, everything. There are times where we don't fully know the application, and that's just part of being. That's I guess part of being in the military supply chain. You just don't always know what's going to happen or where that final destination goes. But it's great work. Our goal is to be the supplier of choice in our industry, and that takes a lot of work, but we're working towards that. And for the students or anybody, hardinoptical.com, you can see a little bit more there as far as just some get a little bit more information. Career path. So career path was a little bit different for me because my parents started this company in 1976. So my dad, he started off just with the love of telescopes, and he was building telescopes himself and got a job in that industry, and that led him into working for a military defense contractor in Southern California making optics. So it just kind of was built out of a hobby in a way, literally as he was a small child, making model airplanes, telescopes, all that kind of stuff. For me, the career path has been different because I'm a second generation owner, and you have to find your own opportunity to help drive the company forward, and that can be difficult. So if any of you kids have family members that have businesses, it's a tremendous opportunity. It could be very difficult because there's all those relationships and there's the potentially butting heads, but it's worth it, and it can be extremely rewarding. So Eugene talked about getting exposed and then that leading to a passion for his field. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Just see what, look at the gifts and talents that you have or you've been presented with, and just see where that leads you. Look into it. Maybe don't write it off just because it's your uncle's business or your mom's business. Oh, I could never do that. It may feel that way, but still investigate it and see what opportunity there might be there. And certainly I've had to grow a lot to be of value to the company. You have to find where you might complement an organization. And so that was part of my journey, I suppose, as well, is I don't have to be my mother, my father, nor could I be, but I can complement them. And in a small organization, that can be tremendously valuable. So yeah, so once again, you kids, you kiddos, but you guys have gifts, you have talents. Just like Eugene said, look into that and see where that leads you. Entering our field, we don't have to have an associate's to start working at Hardin Optical Company. You can apply, and as long as the labor laws allow, you could possibly be working here tomorrow. But what are we looking for? We need people to show up on time, work hard, and have a great attitude. And that doesn't matter if, whether it's my role or our controller or HR, or whether you're an engineer here, we need that across the board. So don't sell yourself short as far as getting involved in an industry. Show up on time, work hard, and have a great attitude. And you might just grow in that organization and really develop that opportunity into a true career path where you're making the kind of money that can help buy a house and be the foundation of a family. So yeah, so I can't overemphasize just working hard. And when it comes to school, the same rules apply. You don't have to be the best student across the board. You don't have to get straight A's. If you're able to do that, go for it, do it if you have that aptitude. But always show up and work hard and have a good attitude, and that will serve you well. So yeah, so that's kind of a little bit of Hardin Optical in a nutshell. Any questions?
And I hope some of the students have some questions here.
How many employees do you have, Michael?
We've got about 80 right now.
What kind of skills do you need? I mean, do you have to have good eye-hand coordination, or is it really heavy lifting, or what kind of skills do you need, or aptitude?
Yeah, for a production environment, there's going to be certainly working well within teams, good communication. For us, high attention to detail is critical. There is a element of we're making sometimes the same part over and over. So you have to be able to work within that kind of environment. And it can be difficult. It can be difficult to kind of keep that focused attention, that level of quality up over X many hours. And it might not be it's not for everybody. But I would still say that if you can get exposed to production work and learn that, hey, I like it, I'd like to pursue this, or you can say, man, I don't like that. I need to pursue a career that doesn't involve this, that's a great experience too. I know that our thin films engineer right now, worked at a crab processing plant. And probably the biggest thing he got out of that is learning that he didn't want to continue working in a crab processing plant. And that's okay, you know, and now he's an engineer here for us. And he went to OIT and got a degree in electrical engineering. Eventually, yeah, grew in our company. So, yeah, so starting on the floor though, on a base level production job, certainly dexterity, focus, working well as a team, understanding that you're a part of a larger system, kind of knowing who your customer is in front of you and behind you, and how your role contributes to that overall production and that overall quality. So yeah, all those things would be critical skills for us.
If I want to apply for a job there, how do I do it?
Well, you know, we advertise in local, you know, whether it's Coffee Break or Indeed or all those kinds of things. And, you know, you can just show up at the front door. I'm sure a lot of businesses are like this. Look for local advertisements and apply. And maybe you say, man, I only have a summer, you know, to work. It may not fit for a lot of companies, but maybe there's seasonal work, or maybe there's an opportunity to fill in for summer vacations or whatnot. It doesn't hurt to ask the question and to knock on a door and see if doors open or close. The worst thing they could say is, I'm sorry, you know, you don't quite fit the skill set, but that's okay. You know, another door will open for you, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice, because I know some of our internships that we've been able to develop are just around those short-term special projects that maybe need some extra hands-on. It's a great learning opportunity. So even if they don't have an actual job opening, there might be some ideas out there that they can throw around and work you in. I think that's one of the great things about being in a smaller community and in a rural area. With so many private business owners, they're able to flex around and really share their information with the students.
For sure.
And I think for a lot of people, these businesses, Southern Coos General Hospital, Hardin Optical, that's a big part of your community. And I think for Bandon youth, it's just terrific to know what you do, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And do you manufacture there on site?
Yeah, we sure do. So we would be taking a rough blank, maybe think of it as a hockey puck to start off with in dimensions, and then generating, let's say, a curve on both sides, and then taking it through a polishing steps, whether that's manual machines or CNC machines, and then potentially putting a thin film coating on that lens, and then shipping that lens to a one of our customers, and then they would be doing the electro-optical assembly at that point. They would be putting it into some kind of final assembly.
Okay. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
Really exciting. And was this your first job? Did you work for your parents as your first job, or did you have another one?
You know,
Take you back a few years here.
yeah, I think it was my first job, and they put me kind of in a position that was very repetitive, and I really didn't like it, you know. And so it was hard for me to imagine being a part of the company when I was younger, because what I was exposed to was kind of, you know, not really up my alley. But all these different companies need different skill sets, and even a small company like ours, there maybe aren't that many accountants, but we do have a controller, and there would be a role that comes up occasionally in that area. We do have engineers. We do have a need for an HR manager. We've got needs for supervisors. So there's quite a bit of diversity within the company and different ways to apply yourself. IT would be another role that we can use. So yeah, these small companies kind of need a little bit of everything. And so there's a diversity of jobs. So when you hear production, that's not the only role or the only way to fit into a local company. They have, really, they're just a small version of these bigger companies. So there might be less opportunities in the other fields, but there's certainly opportunity there.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing that experience with us. And I'm definitely going to look up your website and get more of an insight into what you do.
That's great. Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
Of course. All right. And students, just a reminder, if you do have questions, you can use the chat too. I'll monitor that, but you could also just unmute and we can see and we'll give you time to ask some questions too. So our next company on the agenda was Oregon Overseas Timber, but I don't see his name on the screen right now. So I will go ahead and skip to Christine if you're available to join in next.
Hi, how are you guys?
We're good. I'll speak for them.
Awesome. Yeah, we have a quiet class. I know this type of presentation is a little hard over the screen, but very excited to be asked to be part of it.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us. And you join us from Big Wheel General Store, correct?
Yes, I do.
There's also a museum and a fudge factory I saw. So
yeah.
Very interesting. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, well, the Big Wheel is located in Bandon in Old Town, and I'm sure most of you know where that is. And we do have kind of an eclectic amount of items and different products that we provide. This has been a family business since 1986. So my family actually lived in Montana, and my grandparents saw that this building and business were for sale, and my parents came down to look and drug their 3 kids with them, and we've been here ever since. So they've changed it a lot. It was a feed business and a nursery with plants in the back, and they have transitioned it over the time that they held on to it up until 2018 into a tourist business, which, you know, Bandon has changed a lot in those years. So we've capitalized on the change in the market, and we are now providing a lot of clothing and gift items, and they built a beautiful artwork museum in the back. So we showcase a lot of local artists' work and neat carvings and paintings and glass work. And we do manufacture our fudge on site. So we have that as well. So edibles and gifts and ice cream and all sorts of fun stuff. That's a little bit about it.
That's awesome. It sounds really exciting. I haven't been in there in a few years, so I'm kind of interested in knowing more about the museum side of things. So that is stuff that was already there, or have you collected it over the years? And
so the idea behind it is the driftwood pieces and the big wood pieces are what we call our driftwood museum piece of it. So it's part of an exhibit that was purchased from someone who displayed it, and it's amazing pieces of wood that have been cleaned up from the area. So we have myrtle and maple and cottonwood and big burls, just to showcase, because people from other places, they've never seen this kind of wood. So we kind of built the art gallery and driftwood museum around that, and then we've added in a lot of handcrafted high-end gifts around that. So beautiful things to come see and look at and touch carefully, but it is.
But that's what adds into the tourist piece, right? So we're looking into the tourism industry. I want to find something that's kind of a grabber from the street, even as people walk town or drive by.
Absolutely.
Well, Christine, I had an opportunity to talk to you, so that store is amazing.
Hi,
It's
Mo.
marvelous. There's every fun thing you can imagine. You can actually, I mean, you have so much stuff. But I love what you did. I think that you were a corporate person in Texas.
I was.
Came back. I think that's a great story. If you could share.
I can definitely share about that. So I grew up literally living above our family business, my brother and sister and I. So we definitely saw every single day what our parents did and how much goes into owning a small business. Work, blood, sweat, tears, and we saw their passion for it. And I always knew I wanted to be in business. That was kind of my calling, my skill set, math, and I liked people. I love marketing. So I went to college at Oregon State University, go Beavs, and got my marketing or my business degree, but I focused on marketing and psychology. And I took that and opened up, helped a family open up a little surf shop up on the northern Oregon coast. And then I got the opportunity to move to Texas. and I ended up in the oil and gas industry in corporate marketing. And I had to work pretty hard, but I made it to the top there and spent 12 plus years running a full department, doing international and national marketing, and every bit that goes into, you know, advertising and press releases and everything else on a much bigger, grander scheme. And then we decided we wanted to come back, and we decided to purchase the family business and come back into a smaller environment.
And how many employees do you have, Christine?
Right now I have 8, and that number fluctuates when we go into summer months, where we'll go up to, we've had as many as 18, 19 employees. And some of them are part-time, some of them are full-time, some of them just stay with me for the summer. And we've had the opportunity to have a lot of high school students work with us over the years. And that's given them the opportunity to start at the bottom and learn everything about our business from the front end side. And it's been fun. We've had a few come back and see us over the years, and maybe work a summer or two as well. So we love that.
So if I wanted to work there, what do you look for in an employee?
What do I look for? First off is, what is your first impression? Because you are going to be working with the public. So how do you present yourself? Do you have a smile on your face? Are you approachable? I think is a good way. So the biggest thing in retail is we want to have great customer service. And so if you have a go get 'em attitude, and you are able to wear a smile and show excitement about what you're doing, that transfers to your potential customers and people who may meet you on the street. And you could even talk about where you work and tell them to come see you. I have employees that do all the time. So I think always the biggest thing is that great attitude, openness to learn. And of course, I heard Michael say, you know, showing up on time, being reliable and responsible. Those are definitely key traits for any job, I think, in life. But particularly retail, we do need people to actually be here to ring up stuff and sell. So that is important to be on site.
If I want to apply there, how would I apply?
Come in and get an application. If you have a resume, I think that is the best thing to bring in with your application. I would also encourage anyone who is looking for a job in any capacity, retail or not, to always follow up. That can be a friendly phone call. That could be an email after an interview. Or sometimes I've even gotten a lot of handwritten notes or note cards brought back in, or mailed to me when I was in the corporate world. Just something where you're showing an interest to your potential employer that I am, in fact, not just dropping this off because my parents told me I need to try and get a summer job, but no, I'm interested in becoming a part of a team.
Those are some great tips. And I love the idea of getting in and working the front end of things first. I think it's common with a lot of businesses is that you start on the floor and then you work your way up. You know, we heard that from the hospital too. Probably with the optical as well, as you got to learn how to be a cashier before you can run a store. You know, you've got to learn those customer service skills and those professional traits that we talk about. And
Yeah.
You know, definitely following up, showing up, being accountable. I think that's a common conception we have of our youth. Unfortunately, teens, is that we love to talk about it and make all these plans, but then actually showing up is that key point, and following those deadlines and pursuing it.
Absolutely. I mean, to that point, I have hired every age group in my lifespan. I've had, at one point, every single employee I had was older than me significantly. And so I don't think that you should ever discount the fact that you can work your way up in a business and become a manager or an assistant manager or an owner, just because of your age. I think as long as you're open to learning and working hard, that there is always an opportunity. And starting in retail is great. It gives you a taste of what pieces you might be interested in. And, you know, do you like buying? Do you like designing? Do you like the accounting side of it? Lucky me, I get to do all of it. So it's never a boring day.
how do you decide what, now you are tourism and hospitality is one of our sectors. It's very important to the economy in Coos County. How do you decide what items that you're going to sell that will be interesting to the people that come in your store?
I think there's different for each product. There's kind of a different way to go about it. I am a mom of 4 children, and so it depends on the product. I get feedback from my own children, or if we're going out and I'm seeing things in other spaces that I find interesting, or my kids glom to, or they're attracted to, or my husband. I mean, the same thing. I'm not just buying a garment or a toy or magnet that I like. I need to think about all of the different buying groups that are out there, from, you know, age 5 who wants to pick up something to age 90 who's shopping for themselves or maybe their own grandchildren. So looking at, I do follow the trends, you know, in the industries. I read publications for tourism and souvenirs, and we try to have something different every season in each category, whether it be edibles or apparel or gift or handcrafted goods, just to keep it fresh, because we have a lot of returning customers and I want them to see something new that they'd like to add to their closet or to their counter or their display rack or gift for a friend. So
I buy something every year for Christmas. I do Christmas shopping in your store, and there's a lot of variety.
well, thank you. Yeah, we try and have, you know, the smaller cost, lower cost items that are an easy pickup that say Bandon, Oregon on it. But I also try and carry a lot of stuff that's good for gifts, that doesn't say Bandon, but that you're gonna consciously know when you give it to someone or you put it in your home that that was, you know, a good remembrance of your trip here. Or maybe you live in town and it's just something that matches your decor perfectly. So we try and have something for everyone. But it's a lot of fun to buy. I will tell you, if anybody has an interest in that and learning about it, it is very fun.
I just want to also say my parents live in Michigan, and they love to go in your store whenever they come. They love to come to downtown Bandon, to Old Town, and my mom especially likes going through your store. So you're doing some stuff. You're doing a lot of stuff right. You know, obviously you're getting people into the store from a lot of venues, people from coming out of town and finding it interesting. So that's a good job. So I mean, I think that's great passing on to the students. It's like learning retail. You know, retail's everywhere. And how to offer good customer service is everywhere.
Yeah, I think the skills that you pick up with, whether you work in a, you know, a tourism retail business or a clothing department or, you know, a frozen yogurt stand, the skills that you learn there are transferable. And a lot of it is, you know, going into healthcare, you have to have compassion. You have to be able to work quickly. Attention to detail is crucial. I don't want people giving wrong change back and giving my money away, you know, and it applies differently to each industry that you may work in. But I think the basic skills are very transferable. And thank you for bringing your family in when they come to town. That makes me very happy.
And that was Kevin. He's our high school's teacher down in Bandon.
Oh, nice to meet you, Kevin.
And so you do
You as
have,
well.
sorry, you do have an open internship that one of these students could apply for and spend some time learning business there. What would that really look like? Or do you have an idea of what it's looked like before?
We have never done an internship program here at the Big Wheel, but I have done internship positions in my past career life. So I think each one is kind of shaped differently. And in the retail aspect, I think it would be coming in and actually learning, how do you process an order that comes in when we get merchandise? How do you figure out what you're going to price it at? Where do you place it? How do you do merchandising, which means how do you make it look good so that someone comes in the store and is attracted to looking at your display? And then just understanding, how do you resolve customer situations or employee situations? I think that all of those could be potential things depending on the length of the internship that someone could be exposed to. And just then the basic parts of operating every single day, having to provide customer service and shopping help to, or sales help to someone who comes in the store. So kind of working through every aspect of the business, I think, from floor sales to the retail associates at the front who have to, it looks like, oh, you just take your stuff to the register and they ring it up. But truthfully, when they get to the register, there's a bunch more stuff that you can sell them. So you kind of have to be able to do both jobs of helping them decide if they'd like to purchase some other items or sample some fudge. So being able to communicate clearly with them and have a quick rapport, I guess, build a quick rapport. I think that's something else that they'd be hands-on learning. But I'd love to have an intern. That would be phenomenal.
Yeah, and that really is stuff that you can only learn on site. Like it just takes that repetition and that, awareness, and each experience with the customer is different. So if a student was to do an internship, would you be more likely to maybe hire them in later on as a summer employee or a seasonal employee?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that gives the student an opportunity to see if it's even for them. They come in and they have an expectation or a thought in their mind of what it is. And then once you get in their hands on, sometimes you figure out that's really not what you want to do for the rest of your life. Or I really like this piece of it, but I don't want to be on the floor. I would rather be doing the accounting side of it. I think if you have exposure to that, you learn what your strengths and your likes are. And then obviously allows you to pick a career or a job that you're really going to enjoy doing, which makes going to work every day much easier.
Much easier. Yes. Is there any position where you can just be the shopper? Like just shop? Do you have to do more than one thing? Darn it.
Yeah, a little bit more. Few more.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day today to speak with our students.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And if there's any students who just want to come in and ask questions, like they don't want to talk online, I'm around the store all the time. And if you ever have questions in your classes, I'm welcome to be a resource for any of that.
Perfect. That sounds great. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. All right. And we do have Ulrich here from Oregon Overseas Timber. He was able to join us. So we're going to be able to learn a bit more about what you do and how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, well, thank you, Annabelle. Moiker, it's nice to see some familiar faces here, all in the Zoom chat, which is great. To give a little background about myself, so this is Oregon Overseas Timber is a family-run business. It started out here back in 1983 here along Bandon Airport. And I was introduced to the business very slowly, since my father didn't want to apply too much pressure and said, well, you need to find your own path in life and see what's your quality, what do you like to proceed. And I was fortunate enough in Germany, when you finish high school, you're able to do a 3-year vocational program. And they coincide with businesses where you're able to go and work in the business 4 days a week. And then one day of the week, you have business school. So you have a full college prep training where you learn everything from accounting 101 over to economics and anything that's business related. So you get a good feel for that. And the remaining 4 days, you're actually at the company learning the trade. And they put you, like I was put in right on the spot. I had to answer the phone system. I think it was like 6-8 telephone lines where you're just constantly redirecting phone numbers. And you start out in that position where you really cherish what everyone has to do in that business. And you start your way around. So I was responsible. This was a lumber wholesale yard. And I was serving customers, handing out lumber, plywood, door parts. And I got a really broad perspective of everything. That's how I started out. And then after that was done, I said, well, you get experience in that part, but what really thrived me to venture on my business, go to college, university was to see, well, there was also a financial impact that I said, well, this is not like a top earning wage. If you really want to get further in life, you need to get a little bit more background on that. And that's how I ended up getting my business degree, and I ended up studying forestry and lumber dendrology just because I love the wood aspect. That's not everyone's cup of tea, but I figured that was kind of my step and role. And so when I started working here in 2004, I just basically, had already good knowledge, good background. Yeah, and then to go down to your list, so basically Oregon Overseas Timber being, industrial aspect of things, we produce Douglas fir clears predominantly out of Douglas fir logs. I believe you still have to be, the minimum age requirement is 18 in order to start in our business. However, we've had plenty of interns in the past. We even had a German intern that came over and followed and worked outside. So he officially applied, he got his work visa, and he lived in Bandon for close to 2 years. So we do encourage that. And if you know of anyone that likes to get a feel of how it is to work in the industry with lumber products, since we start the new employees out on a chain, you learn to pull lumber in different sizes. So you start out like with our 5/4 by 2, 2 by 2 small items, and then you work your way up. You get a feeling for how to pull lumber. Since it's not born into you, you have to have the feeling of, what technique you use. Use your back shoulder, use a mechanism of trying to do that. And basically, once you work your way up on that side of thing, you then become, either machine operator. We have so many different machines that process the logs, the lumber, and that requires, of course, the basic knowledge of what different products we all produce, what grades are out there. And so I really encourage that knowledge. We try to train the employees in-house so they all get a feel of how to work up on what lumber, what products do we sort, so they get a feel for it. So we have a lot of long-term employees that stuck with us. Some started at a very young age, and they said, we want to be in this industry for a long time.
That's really cool. I did not know that was all done right here. You said you're located over near the airport?
Yes, right down Keel Lane, Bandon Airport. Yeah, and we established our retail division back in 2004. So we moved that from Highway 101 to directly behind our office. And that step was, I think it was essential to help the local contractors, builders with, everyone has the opportunity to purchase lumber, even if it's just a stick of wood. We've created lumber racks now to our back section that has 60 bins of just kiln dried lumber ready to pick up. So everyone in Bandon that, either can go to Hennick's, Bandon Supply, or Northeast Timber. That's your best bet for lumber sourcing.
That's awesome.
And we kind of want to be a little differentiated, because compared to the other ones where they handle more like a second growth type log, our logs tend to be more mature, more fine grained. So it's a higher quality product that we put on our shelves. And the retail yard's interesting because that's fun too. We have a lot of locals that come for the landscaping bark to pick up rough saw lumber if they need something specific. So it's great that they can just travel through, and we have a retail manager that takes care of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's where my brain went, was landscaping right away. I'm like, oh, flower boxes, and it's things that we could buy and actually use in our homes too.
Yes.
That's neat. And then you ship internationally, is that correct?
We do. Our name is, however, a little misleading. When we started out, when my father started exporting products from the United States to Germany, Austria, Italy, we had probably over 80 different key accounts in that business. And it's just sometimes how the world economics work, where other species, wood from China, from Russia, they're just less expensive. They've been introduced into the European market, and it's dwindled down where we just have a handful of customers. So I can pridefully say, I would say probably 90% of our products they stay in the United States.
That's
It's
awesome.
shifted completely, where our main products a lot goes down to the Bay Area, where they need the high-end finished product. I can give you some examples, like the Facebook, when they do the headquarters and they want to have brand new conference room doors. Our 2x8 clears get used for that project. Or the cable cars down in San Francisco, they use our Douglas fir as a brake pad, so it gets routed out, and they have little 2x4 blocks they use. Or a lot of museums use our ingrain product. That's when they use a block of lumber, they chop it up so you can see the vertical growth rings, and they make a parquet flooring, which the closest exhibit would be at Bandon Dunes at the main lobby. You can see that spread around in front.
Yes. Okay. That's awesome. I think
How
they
do all these people find you?
pads.
Pardon?
How do all these fabulous people find you? Are you the marketing person?
I am, and it's funny how that goes when it comes to like selling our products. Since we're just being a sawmill, we sell to so many wholesalers, and then again the chain works down. The wholesalers then pass it on to the carpenters and to the other different users that actually finish the product and surface it and break it down to that final use. So there's 4 or 5 people involved in that chain. And Monica, yeah, that's probably, we basically have just the established relationships where everyone, it's such a small market. They all sell to another, buy from one another.
Wow.
So that makes my market easy. Yeah, the challenges, of course, is on the local market here, and making sure that all locals know here, how can they source that lumber.
I think every employer today has talked about relationships, and your relationships are actually in terms of the people purchasing your product.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. because they're the ones I deal with mainly. That's probably my main biz of the job, making sure. And when I sell full truckloads of lumber, it's completely different than the retail side, where it sometimes goes quite easy, where you just have repeat business coming. And another topic for us is sourcing the logs, since that's also a challenge. We like to repurpose and we take a lot of salvage logs. So from all these forest fires you've heard about, that's our goal, to actively be participating and taking dead trees, standing trees. We want to be part of that aspect and make sure that the government coffers get refilled too, since it's important that BLM, Forest Service, they've spent a lot of money on fighting fires. Let's try to get this in. So that's what we like to focus on.
That's very interesting.
So when you salvage from a forest fire, do you still have to kiln the wood?
Yeah, so it's kiln dried wood.
Pre-seasoned?
Yeah, pre-season.
Yeah.
So typically with these logs, and it's interesting, people ask us, how do these logs store here without, we don't have a sprinkler system here. Being on the coast, that's our big advantage. We don't have to water them all down. We keep the natural bark on them. And if they've been through a fire, you will see it's quite a big bark chunk that's around it. We can't use that for landscaping, but it protects the logs. And then when we sort these to bays, to lengths, we have different log qualities. And when we choose a certain log length, for example, a certain grade, we pull from the deck. That's when the logs get debarked. So we have a barking system in progress, and that takes the bark, the bird part off. And there is still in that sapwood, the first outer ring of a log. That's where a lot of bugs, worms, they will start infesting and eating around. And that lumber needs to be discarded. So that will be ending up into our chips that we produce. So wood chips that we produce. And the rest we just have to physically look at. So that makes our job so interesting. And every employee out there, that's their responsibility to make sure, you turn every board around, make sure that there's not a defect like that. And when we have that finished product, yes, absolutely, you're right, Annabelle, we take it into our drying kilns. We have 4 drying chambers. They equal to 300,000 board feet. So that equals to about like 15 truckloads. So it's quite a big capacity we have. And we dry the majority of our clears down to 12% moisture content. So it's a long drying process, takes 20 days, but it's very thoroughly done, and it's high value clear. So you can imagine truckload can cost easily $50,000. You don't want to ruin that type of product.
Right.
How many employees do you have?
We're close to about 30 employees.
And if I want to apply for a job, what would I do?
Yes, then that's a good thing. You can either come see us in the main office, email us. We always have the generic application forms, and I always encourage to attach a good resume. I've noticed in the past that schools try to emphasize the progress of how to write good resumes. And coming from Germany, you have to be spot on, and there should be no loopholes. You need to be very accurate in explaining where you worked. And I know that typically here, being in the lumber industry, a lot of them, they can come, go, travel, move around. So it's interesting how resumes look here versus what I've been accustomed to. And you really, I take close note, and I give applicants little pointers. I explain, well, if you've worked in the lumber industry, if you worked somewhere, that's important. You need to state that. That's a good base to work on and start off.
Good point. And also any classes, right, or any introduction they've already had to working with wood, or any type of awareness of wood products they could list.
Yeah, and coming from industrial field, since we have positions, we have people that work in the maintenance department. So if you have been to a welding school and you have that background, that's important to us. So any qualifications you gather through the years, absolutely, we'd like to see.
Drug test?
We do drug tests, yes. So we work with the McCown Lab in Coos Bay. That's where when you make it through the step of the application, the interview process, and you're in the final figure, we ask that you take a drug test. We do random drug testing here on site. And the reason, and it's important, especially in this day and age, you're working with heavy machinery. It is a gray line, the use of marijuana and how that comes affecting. And we just encourage you need to really stick to those rules. It's important for the safety of yourself and that of your coworkers.
Yeah, definitely. So you have all sorts of jobs there. It sounds like you have the heavy equipment, you have the actual people moving the wood around, and then you have office supports and lots of different stuff, all running one business, correct?
Right. Right, that's correct. And a good one for like you said, if you're like an intern or someone to job shadow someone, if it's someone of a younger age, Jasmine, she's our office manager up front, and maybe to the female workforce that would like to, you know, to see what's about of like working in a sawmill. I think that's the best position. You know, typically, you know, you can follow her a lot and see what she does on a daily basis, from entering, creating tally tickets, you know, for that go on lumber units, over to answering phone calls, invoicing. There's so many different fields we can offer here. And I really encourage that people can apply and ask more, or even just they want to, for summertime, come see us and see what we're about.
That sounds great. That sounds great. Well, thank you so much for finding time today. I know it's been a busy day.
Sorry, yes, and sorry for coming late. So appreciate you guys squeezing me in.
That's quite all right. Thank you so much.
Riley.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so students, thank you so much for sticking with us today and learning about this stuff. Has anything come to mind that you'd like to bring up that we could look into further? I think Kevin has to take off. He's got students arriving in a different room, but we have the rest of you online.
I'm going to go to Annabelle. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Bo.